That was a really nice, polite golf clap. But when Ronit comes, I want you to give her a raucous, heartfelt welcome, Ronit Bender.
You know, it's the first time in all my walk with the Lord, which has been a few years, that I'm doing back-to-back meetings. So that's, you have grown since the last service. I know why you're late. You wanted to sleep in the morning, right? You're lazy because it's Sunday. We'll pray for you at the end of the service. Mrs. Thompson, and I understand that's your daughter. Is that your daughter now?
My daughter in Jesus. She just met Jesus a month ago.
Wow, how exciting. Hey, that's fantastic. You're just as good looking as your husband said. I appreciate you, Pastor. You know why? Because a lot of pastors stand on the stage and you think they're some kind of superstars. And he stands and he shares with you real problems that he has and thoughts that are ungodly and whatever it is, because we're being worked on and upon by the Lord, and it's just really refreshing to see someone that is so I would have adopted him. I have a son looks just like him. He's quiet, you know. My son, would you believe my son is quiet? Yeah. My husband was very quiet, and Josh is very quiet and just very much reminds me of Pastor Aaron. Anyway, let's pray. Father, it's an honor to be here. I just pray that that you get me through this service today, and that you convey everything that you want to these dear people. And that I pray that I move aside and let Jesus, Yeshua, be Lord of this meeting. I don't want them to clap for me. I want them to clap for you. I was many years in my life when I wanted to be the center of attention. I was so insecure and scared, and I needed to be seen and heard. I don't need to. I just want to move aside and give you all the honor, the glory, because you are my Savior, my Lord, the strength of my life. I know without you I am in the dumps or the one or the other. And I would have gone to hell so fast without you. So I want to honor you today in the service and say, Lord, touch every heart here today. Touch every family. And anyone who sits here today and feels really lonely, may today what I share become like a bridge to the Father's heart. I'm willing to be a 6-foot bridge for them to walk through and on to get to your Father's heart, so they in turn can reach out to other people. Because this is all what it is, Lord. Everything you do for us, everything you get us, everything you save us because you love us, and then you want us to give everything away that you give us, because that's the kind of God you are. You, Father, have given your only begotten Son, your most precious possession for us. And we are made in your image and in the likeness of Yeshua. Why shouldn't we be the same? So help me today to convey, keep me focused, because I sometimes get off track and I just detour somewhere else, and I don't have Tom here to remind me where I got off the track. My husband used to sit in the front and used to remind me where I'm off and get me back on track. But I just pray you're my husband and you help me today in Yeshua's name. Amen. Amen. You know, testimonies are always a really interesting time, because I used to struggle with it, because I thought I'm talking about so many things that were wrong in my life, and I don't want to give Satan any glory. But you know, sometimes we need to mention those things because we've come a long way, and it gives hope to the people that are along that road. And even if none of you can relate to anything I'm saying, you probably know someone that can. So I'm praying that you take those words, the word of Yeshua, Jesus, and put them into action in your life. I come from a very dysfunctional background. My parents my mom tried to abort me and obviously didn't succeed, otherwise we wouldn't have this conversation now. When I was very young, I was raped by my nanny's boyfriend, and then I was put in foster care, and I was abused some more in the foster care, and my life was really difficult as a child. I didn't have any grown-up, anyone that I could trust. I didn't believe in God, because if there was a God, where was he when I was going through all those hardships? By the way, he's been there with me, and he suffered more than I have. I didn't know it at the time. I was a little girl that went through a lot of difficulties. And so when I was a teenager, my mom got married again and divorced again. 3 times she was married. And when I was a teenager, I started messing with drugs. I just tried to find a way to numb the pain, and I didn't know how. I do not recommend anyone to go on drugs to numb the pain. You have Yeshua, you have the Father, you have the Son, Holy Spirit to help you. We don't need the drugs to numb the pain, but I didn't know any of that, and so I turned to drugs. And I looked on the outside like a regular person. No, I never looked regular, but, kind of regular. But you didn't see the addiction on me. But I knew, in spite of the fact that I wasn't born again, I knew something was very wrong. But I just didn't know how to correct it. And so I finished school, and I went to, in Israel you have to go to the army. I went to the Air Force for 2 years, and then I went to Jerusalem, and I scored a job. I became the Deputy Prime Minister Assistant. Aren't you impressed? Would you like to know how I got the job? I went into an office of 30 women. In those days, in the early 70s, we would wear such short skirts that you could get pneumonia. That's not why I got the job, because they all wore short skirts. But I walked into the room, and they all looked so secretarial, and I had no idea how you even So I went in, I thought, I'm going to get this job. I didn't have God to know, I didn't know God to pray. I just went in there, and then my name was called out. And I go into the office where I'm supposed to be interviewed by the Deputy Prime Minister. And I walk in, and I look around, and say, Igal, where are you? Now, that doesn't sound really funny, but Igal alone used to be very short. And he used to have his photos taken from the bottom, so he looked really tall. But when I walked in, he got to my belly button. He was really short. And so I said, where are you? I expected to look someone in the eyes. He said, you got the job. He figured out, if I can be so honest, he wants me for a secretary. So I walked out. I said to the girls, the job been taken. Goodbye. Was nothing very spiritual here. Anyway. I worked there for quite some time, and I had a great time. I had 5 secretaries working for me. And then I used to get into women's magazines, and I became a glamour girl, and I went out with the right guys. I did all the right things, but I felt like I had a huge hole in my heart, and I couldn't understand why. So I thought, I know what, I'll move to Tel Aviv. In those days, I had what I call my unholy trinity, me, myself, and I. I know you don't have that. I did. It's a pre-believing days. And so I moved to Tel Aviv, and one day I was sitting on the beach smoking away thinking, I need to get a job. And this woman comes up to me and said, excuse me, do you speak German? I said, yes. She said, would you like a job? I said, yes. She said, come on. I never even asked her, how did you find me from all those hundreds of people? Nothing, I just put my clothes on and followed her and got to work for travel agency Peltus, who used to be in the 70s the biggest travel agency in Tel Aviv. And that's how I was introduced to Yeshua, to Jesus. I was the Alpha and Omega. I was the beginning of the trip, taking them on a bus to the hotel and then bringing them all the way back out to the airport, talking to them either in German or English, both very broken, I might add, but they thought it was really cute. And I made good tips. I had this one group that was very poor. They came from the Republic of Czechoslovakia, or Czech Republic, and they used to tie up their blanket and put all the worldly belonging in there instead of a suitcase. They really touched my heart, because I realized that they saved all their lives to come to the Holy Land because of Jesus. But because it had nothing to do with me, because I'm a Jew and Jesus is the Lord of the Gentiles, so I thought. So I would say to my drivers, aren't the Christians crazy? They make a lot of noise in the bus, and they sing, and bus drivers agree, the Christians are crazy. And so I worked like this for a while, and then one day I was walking on the street of Tel Aviv, and I ran into a belly button. And there was a human being above the belly button. You know, Jewish people are relatively short race. You might not believe that looking at me, but we used to be a short race. I increased the height in Israel. No, I didn't. So this person up there was 7'1". He had lots of hair, piercing eyes, and he wore a gown like two Moseses put together. He said, "Shalom." I said, "Shalom to you too." Turns out that he was a basketball player that played for Hapoel Tel Aviv, for a team in Tel Aviv, and he was the tallest Jew that ever played in Israel basketball. He used to be an NBA player before. And after 3 days, he proposed me. And he was a drug addict too. So I said to him, "I don't love you. Why would I marry you?" And he said, "Look, it's going to be okay. We go to New York, and everything will be fine, no problems." In Israel, when someone says to you, "No problems," start praying. So we went to New York to get married. He's on drugs, I'm on drugs. My parents upset, very upset. And I said to my mom, I know I'm not going to marry him, but I just have to go. I have this urge to go. And I remember my mom saying to me, "Ronit, your urge has got you into so many troubles." I said, "I know, one more time, Mom, come on, one more time." She showed some money and a phone number in my whatever I was wearing and said, "If you get to New York and get into trouble, which you're known for, fly to San Francisco with the money and call the number I left there." I said, "Okay, Mom, bye." And we went to the airport, and a week later we have a scheduled wedding. Well, David went through one security thing, and I went through the other. We argued about everything. It was very clear that I'm not going to marry him. But I was thinking about it since the last service, so the people in the first service might miss out on something. Because, I really believe with all of my heart that the Lord blesses those that are on the way somewhere. If I sat at home, I would have never met who I'm about to tell you about, and I would have never met the Lord. So I went, even though logically it made no sense, I just went with that urge, which I know today was the urge of the Lord, but at the time I didn't know that. I could have sat home. Many people sit at home and wait. Let me tell you, you're going to wait. Next time when I come to Seattle, you'll still be waiting, and nothing happens. You got to move, people. We make plans and God directs our path. He likes people. He likes us to be. Anyway, I'm not preaching, I'm just sharing my testimony. Right, Ronit, right. So I turned around when he was going, Dave was going to this, I turned around and I saw this really, really good-looking, angelic-looking 7-footer without wings. He looked like an angel. And I really thought the drugs are really, yeah, right. And I got out on the other side and I said to David, who is this guy? Because in Israel, 7-footers don't walk around. He said, "That's Tom Bender." I said, "And who is Tom Bender?" He said, "He played against me basketball." I said, "Okay, so let him sit with us." David said, "Okay, bad for him, good for the Jews." To sit with us, and I tell you what, I was smitten like you wouldn't believe. I, who didn't believe in love, I didn't believe in love at first sight, I was gone. I just waited to see little wings, because he looked so angelic. And I remember thinking, I'm going to get the drugs he's taking. Whatever it is, I'm taking it. Not knowing what I'm saying to myself. So he went off in London. Before he went off, I forgot to ask him 2 questions. We went from Tel Aviv to London to New York. So he went off in London, but before he went off, I asked him lots of questions. Forgot to ask him 2 questions: if he was married, No, I didn't forget. I didn't have courage. And what sort of drugs he was taking. Other than that, I knew everything. I knew his father died, and he's from Iowa. He was going to go home, and he's going to come back, play another season, or whatever. So before he got off, I said, "Can I have your address?" So he looked at me. He knew I'm getting married next week. But he was very shy, and he gave me his address and went off. But David looked at me and he said, "I've been watching you now for 5 hours. You look to me like you fell in love with the guy." I said, "You're absolutely right. And I'm going to marry him, not you." Don't feel sorry for David. He was really a bad guy. I can see those of you sitting there really judging me. Don't feel one. That was absolutely the hand of God. If I married David, I would be dead 10 times over and I would have gotten to hell. God had a plan. Tom used to say, God had a rescue plan, and I was it. That was my husband used to say. Anyway, so David and I continued to New York. He said, "You know, Ronit, you can still change your mind. A few hours till we get to New York." I said, "David, that's going to be my husband. I don't know why. I know I'm going to marry him." So that didn't go down very well. I think they should have changed my middle name to Lead Balloon. I'm not good at Anyway, there was a big dinner there, and they announced that David and I are getting married, and I tried to tell them that it's not going to happen, but they wouldn't listen. You know, Jewish people are very stubborn, right? Right? You cannot say that because it's anti-Semitic. I can say that. I'm a Jew. So 400 eyes looked at me, and they're going to kill me. Man, they looked at me with so much hatred. You know, David was like a really big shot in Brooklyn. I didn't think so at all. And neither obviously did the Lord. But anyway, so I said to David, I said, "No, I'm not going to go marry your son. I met my future husband on the plane." Yeah, they said like you do. Just another lead balloon came down, you know. And they said, "Maybe it's really good she's not going to marry our son. She looks crazy, the woman. What do you mean a future husband on the plane?" Next day I flew to San Francisco with the money my mom put in and called up this number. And this man answered, and I told him who I was, and he said, I'm going to come with my wife, pick you up in 45 minutes. And they came. And it was my mom's first husband. She had 3. If you're confused, believe you me, I am too. Or I was. I said, "Mom, if you marry one more guy, I call everyone Abba," which is father in Hebrew. Anyway, she was a marrying type, you know. So I can't believe some of the stuff I'm saying, but you know, I think, and who said that, and who said that? Anyway, I should have been instead of Seinfeld or something, right? I should have been like a stand-on comedian, only I don't think it's very funny what I've gone through, but anyway. So, where am I? San Francisco, yeah. So I called up this man, and he said, "We'll be there." And they came, and he and his wife, Ruthie, never had children of their own, and I didn't really have mom and dad either, so we kind of, you know, we just like the chemistry, kind of. I became the girl, and they became my mom and dad. And on the way home, I'm chatting away, telling about Moses one day, how he might come to the door and how he looks with the big gown, and "Don't open the door, Henry, it's very dangerous." Moses found me. He found me in San Francisco. But, and then I'm about to tell them I'm a drug addict, and I realized I didn't take drugs since New York, and the Lord delivered me supernatural of years of addiction on that flight. Doesn't he deserve glory? Now, before I continue, you know, Guy, I don't know, you're not Southwest, are you called Southwest? No, what are you called here? Northwest? You're kind of not very expressive. you know? I don't know what you grew up at home, that you need to be really controlled and stiff, and just relax a bit. If you need to get up and shake your legs and hands and laugh, it's very healthy, okay? I don't think my testimony is funny, but you know why it's funny? Because God knows exactly the needs that are in the house. Sometimes I can't stop crying, and other times I can't stop people to laugh, because obviously you need it. So please laugh with all of your heart and make me feel like I'm at home, okay? All right. Now I lost it again. However, I found this word, however, a very exciting word. It's so long that I try to get myself back on track, but I don't have a clue where I am. Where was I? Yeah. So I stayed with them for 2.5 months and found relatives in Beverly Hills, and you know, Jewish people want their kids to marry lawyers and doctors, and I didn't want to marry a lawyer doctor. I met my future husband on the plane. I actually spoke those things that I know that those were, you know, I didn't know nothing about that scripture or anything else in the Bible. And so after 6 weeks, when I knew that Tommy's going to be back playing another season, I wrote him a letter. It used to be snail mail, remember, once upon a time, before the email? And I said, "Dear Tom, don't fall in love with anyone until I'm coming back. Pick me up at the airport at a certain time. Bye, Ronit." The guy told me later, I thought, what a nerve, you know. I met him only for a few hours. I don't even know if he's married or not. You were supposed to laugh at that part, but never mind. I can see that I forgive you. I'm just here today for forgiveness. So he wrote me an answer, but because I left early, the letter returned to sender. Actually returned to Bender. So I didn't know when I was in Amsterdam with my friends, I went for a week, I didn't know if Tom is going to be at the airport. And so I decided, me, myself, and I, that if there's no Tom, I forget about it, but if he's there, da-da-da-da. Now you're forcing it, I can see that. You're really like, oh, they're really laughing, Lord, wow. Is that olive wood or it's pretend? Yes. It looks like olive wood, yeah? You don't know? That's a very holy puppet. We have a lot of olive wood in Israel. So, you know, sometimes I just think I want to go home, you know, I'm just thinking, Mrs. Thompson, forgive me. Yeah. So, where was I, Lord? At the airport. At the airport. What airport was it? That's right. So I'm arriving at the airport, and my heart is like dong, 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 dong. And me, myself, and I decided, no Tom, no wedding. Tom, da, 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 da. So my mom and dad got together at the time more than they have, I think, all my years growing up. They wanted to let me know how happy they were that I am not marrying David, because I realized it was really bad news. And so when I saw them and I didn't see Tom, I started crying, and they thought that I was crying because I was happy to see them. I was crying because there was no Tom. And so my dad put my stuff in the car, and just as he's about to take off, I see Tom coming. Now, remember, he wrote in the email, in the letter, that he's going to be late. I just didn't know it. So say it's from the booth over there, and where the clock is. I don't know if you call it a booth. I don't know. English is a really funny language here. So, I just want to tell you what I looked like when he saw me coming at him, because it was August and it was over 100 degrees. It's really hot in Israel and humid. And here's me. This is what I looked like. I had lots of black curly hair, and I had earrings down to somewhere, and this white flowing blouse, red pants, and boots up to here. Why boots? Because my friend bought me boots in Amsterdam. I decided I need to wear my present. but it's over 100 degrees. That alone should have been a reason to just turn around and run. But he stood there, and I was running to my destiny, ta-ta-ta-ta-ta-ta. My parents behind were going to kill me if they could catch me. They didn't know who the stranger I'm running to, and Tom stood there. He had beautiful blue eyes. They became like blue marbles with horror in his face. He saw this vision coming at him with the white flowing and the boots, the boots in the heat. Anyway, he was, I think to this day, there's a hole on the sidewalk. He just got stuck there. And I jumped on him because I was in love for a long time. He wasn't. He barely could spell my name. And I jumped on him. I said, I'm going with my parents to Haifa. See you tomorrow in Tel Aviv at coffee shop. Bye. And I was gone. And he stood there. I remember turning around from my father's car. He still stood there. He thought, was that a vision or was it real? I mean, it was a scary sight. You might not think so, but boots in over 100 degrees is a bit of a need for prayer. So anyway, Tom was a very logical person, very slow to speak. Like from Iowa, what are they in a rush? They're competing against the corn. What problems do they have? Am I going to be taller or the corn taller? I mean, I have to tell you, my first time in Iowa in a church, never been to a church before. I just got born again. I'm jumping a bit before my thing. I walk into the church and I see a guy sleeping. So I went up to him, I shook him, and I said, Jesus is exciting, why are you sleeping? Well, the guy was like the head of the village, that was my end there, right? Tom said, I think we need to leave. And we did in a hurry. Anyway, they don't love Jews in that village, and they love them even less. Anyway, so, my brain today has gone for a walk, Teresa. I don't know where I am. Where am I now?
You're going to meet him for coffee.
Huh?
You're going to meet him for coffee.
I'm meeting him. I'm glad. Look, the only reason I'm forgetting, let's make it clear, is to see if you're with me. Because you might be as confused as I am. And 2 services at my age, you want to know how old I am? I'm not telling you. I told you. I'm 65, going on 66, and don't you dare saying I'm not good looking. I don't know where I got that from, but anyway, I think Joyce Meyer or something. Yeah, right. I think Joyce Meyer and I were separated at birth. Except she's so straight. Anyway, so how can I lose? I'm going to keep a diary here. I'm going to write down what I forget, and then I'm going to the last thought that So where was I now?
Your parents said you're going to meet Tom in Tel Aviv tomorrow.
Tel Aviv. So my father gave me a lecture all the way to Haifa. Said, did I raise you up to jump on strangers? I said, Daddy, you didn't raise me up. That's what happened. I grew up with everyone else but my mom and dad. That was the funny part. You guys are totally asleep. Anyway, next day I met Tom. One lady is crying. Thank God for that. The emotion shown in the house. This is good, girl. That's good. I'm with you. Wait till you get to the sad parts. It's coming. Next day I met Tom in Tel Aviv in a coffee shop. He came and he told me years later, he said, the day when I went to meet you at the coffee shop, I wasn't going to meet you at the coffee shop, but God just pulled my feet, and I'm sure he did. And so I met him and I said, okay, Tom, now we asked the 2 questions I didn't ask last time, like, are you married? And he said, no, I got a girlfriend. I said, don't worry, I'll take care of that. I know you would never say that. And then I said, and now, what sort of drugs do you take? Because you have a very angelic face. And I believe my testimony starts here, because what happened next was totally unexpected. he said to me, I don't take any drugs, never have, I believe in Jesus. And I said, but I am Jewish. Jesus is the Lord of the Gentiles. And he said 3 words. He said, Jesus is Lord. When he said those 3 words, it's like someone took his hand and put it in my heart and ripped out the heart of pain, of rape, of abandonment, of abuse. It's not that all my past has disappeared, but the healing started taking place as my spiritual eyes and ears open up. Because when I looked at Tom again, I saw something different. And I said, you know, that thing about Jesus, I have to think about it. And so I went back to work in a travel agency. You know, I sometimes think the Lord took my hard heart and did like a schnitzel. You know, when you beat the schnitzel up? That's what he did with mine. He was tenderizing my heart. I became a different person. I knew, and I was very scared because I didn't know what was going on, and I just knew something inside me is totally different. I see things that are different. Supernatural things happen to me. You know, I had 2 groups. They used to prophesy over me because I didn't know what prophesy was, but I loved what they said. I said, you talk about me? And they said, yeah. I said, keep it coming. I like it. I wish I wrote it down. Some beautiful, probably that I'll be speaking here today. I don't know what they said then. It was in 1978, but after 3 months to the day when I came back, I knew that Jesus is Lord. Supernaturally, he revealed himself to me. And Tom came to pick me up one Saturday at 5 o'clock in the morning at the airport in Ben Gurion. And we sat down, and I said to him, so I believe in Jesus. How do I pray? He led me to the Lord, and 5 minutes later he proposed me. And then we got married 3 months later, which he said was the fastest thing he's ever done. I think he was so slow because he was 7 foot, so it took a long time to get... No, that's Iowa, you know. I know your Seattle, it's different. And you know, we got married, and I have to tell you, this I didn't tell in the first service, it's so cute. You know, when Tom came to Israel to play basketball, the guy he's really a known journalist, I won't mention his name, in Israel, and he gave Tom papers, and he said, you're a Jew now. Well, Tom always loved the Jewish people, and he loved Jesus. He didn't know exactly what it meant, so he took his new papers. He remained Tom Bender, but he got an identity card like we Israelis have, and he got an Israeli passport, got all that. So why am I telling you that? Because when we got married, the rabbi was the height of this. No, shorter, maybe less. So anyway, he came into the room to do a Jewish wedding, and he looked at Tom, and he looked up. He was thinking about his beard. What are we going to do here? And then 4 little guys came with him to hold the chuppah. So they all stood on a chair. We had a wedding on a chair. I'm sure it's never been before or after, a wedding on a chair. And Tom had no clue what they were saying, because I said it all in Hebrew. I said, say yes, everything. The poor guy, you know, I don't think I've told it ever. You can take it off the record. I don't mind, it doesn't matter. That he signed, you know, we have a ketubah. The Jewish people sign a paper to say, I took this woman for such and such money. 1 million lira. That's a lot of money at the time. That would be like whatever, $1 million now, but it was in 1979. And he signed it very happily. I said, you just signed your life away, but anyway. So, I tell you, our wedding was something, all on a chair. When I come to think of it, I sometimes think, well, yeah, it happened to me. Anyway, I have a lot of unusual things happen, don't you think, for one person? Someone once said, never mind what they said. Okay. We are not talking about me, we're talking about the Lord. So we got married, and we felt that God wanted us to go to Australia, because Tom played for Australia. He became an Australian citizen in 72. They asked him to play in the Munich Olympics, and he was the only one that went to the Israeli compound to see what to do with the 11 athletes who were murdered. And I was working for the Deputy Prime Minister at the time, and he was also the Minister for Sport. So what happened was, it was really interesting. We didn't know that 6 years later we were going to be married to each other. We didn't know. But he always loved the Jewish people. He said his family was so anti-Semitic, his village was anti-Semitic, but he loved the Jews. The only thing I can think of is that God placed it there, because everyone else didn't. So we went to Australia. I was telling them in the first service that when we first came to Australia, he was Mr. Basketball. He was invited to be Mr. Basketball in the city in Australia, in Queensland was a state. And the only English I could speak is pretty much yes and no. I wasn't sure what was what. And we managed with my English, but then we came to Australia, which speaks a whole different English. And the hostess said to me, "Did you come to die?" I said, "No, I came to live." She said, "Did you come to die?" I said, "Tom, she's deaf and she's rude. Let's go back to Israel." And the word turned, Tom said, "Ronit, what she's saying, did you come today?" With an accent. And then she said, "Oh my gosh." Then she said to me, "Would you like some tea?" I understood the tea. I thought, well, I don't like tea, I like coffee, but we didn't do good with the to die. We better, I like some tea. So she was gone for an hour. I said, "Tom, she went to Sri Lanka to pick the tea. Where is she?" So it turns out that in Australia, tea is a dinner. You didn't know that, did you? Did you come to die? This is really cute. I like that. I'm going to try it on other audiences. Did you come to die? Anyway, my life in Australia was very interesting. I missed 90% of what they're saying. And when Tom was around me, he would translate to me in simple English. It took me about 25 years. We lived there for 26. Just when I got it, we left, I mean, I thought they were speaking in tongues. They were like, They used to call women Sheilas. I didn't like that at all. I think that's like a derogatory name. But anyway, never mind. It had nothing to do with this. So in 2004, our son was born. Josh was a beautiful young man. And when he was 21, he got married to his high school sweetheart. And in 2004, the Lord started speaking to Tom and saying, "Now is the time." And he knew exactly. He was trying to make deals with God. God is Jewish, so you do deals with him. He said, "Look, Lord, I'm 60. When I get to be 65, I'll get my pension. We'll go then." Lord said, "Now is the time." So he knew he was going to have a problem with his wife. So he sat me down. I thought someone died, because usually he doesn't sit me down something very serious. And I said, he said, "Ronit, something very serious is happening." I said, "Yes." He said, "We're moving back to Israel." I said, "Get behind me, Satan." It's under the blood. God has forgiven me. And so did my husband. I had no intentions of leaving beautiful Australia to go back to live in Israel, because I'm an Israeli. I'm a native Israeli. I know life is not easy there. And Tom said, I said, "Maybe with your next wife. This wife stays in Australia." He said, "Ronit, I'm not going to have another wife. You're my only wife, and we're going." So he said, "I tell you what, I'm going to send you to Israel for 6 weeks. You hear yourself from the Lord. Because when things get difficult, you will not be able to get on the plane and come back, because we are not going to have a home. We're selling the home. We've got nothing to come back to. So, and besides, when God calls you somewhere, He doesn't call you to change your mind. He calls you for a reason." So I went to Israel, and as soon as my feet touched the ground in Ben Gurion airport, the Lord said, "Welcome home." And the whole time I was there, He just confirmed, and I ministered to women my age, and it was amazing, led them to the Lord, and God really showed great favor and a lot of goodness to me, and came back and I said, "Yeah, Tom, I know where to go." So the Lord provided for us 2 tickets before the end of the year. Someone put money into our account. We came back together and heard that we wanted to do it together, because it was a very big step. And in 2005, after we gave away the inside of the house and our 2 cars, we arrived in Israel. with 2 bags each, starting our life. I was 55 and Tom was 61. Well, I can see you looking really excited. You know, it's not easy. He doesn't speak the language. Living in Israel, I know you really love Israel, don't you? Yes. Most of you have never been there, right? Here, Mary here in the front lived there for 8 years, so she knows exactly. But a lot of people have this romantic love with Israel. They have this dream, you know, that the Israelis are floating and there are camels on the street and we live in tents. Or on the other hand, we are walking around with ties and suits. You know, I mean, the ideas that people have of Israel are just like, I think, what movie have you been to lately? You know, life in Israel is really hard, you know, in the best of times. And being a Messianic Jew is very difficult. We have ultra-Orthodox that are persecuting us. Now I'm going to ask a question I didn't ask the first time. No, you don't have to answer me. And if I'm going to be sued for it by that person, I won't mention his name, then he can sue me. Do you ever give to this really big guy that have Honor Israel Night donations? No. You're very quiet. Do you know what he does with the money? American pastor every year does an Honor Israel Night, gets over $6 million, gives it to the ultra-Orthodox, and guess who persecutes us? Them. So they're laughing. The Messianic Jews are struggling, and the ultra-Orthodox are laughing on the way to the bank. Something wrong in this picture. But I didn't mention the name, so he can't sue me. Anyway, we came to Israel. You know, in Israel that night when we arrived was, I don't know where I told it, not here before, but it was so weird. We arrived at midnight, and there was this huge sign, "Welcome home, Tom and Ronit Bender." To this day, Tom has not been here for a while, but I have no idea who put it there. He didn't either. And when we told Rita Tsukahira, our pastor's wife, she couldn't believe that. We don't know. I don't know. Maybe God came from heaven for a visit and stuck it there. I don't know. But it was talk about confirmation. We knew we needed to come back to Israel. And it was very, very hard. I knew it's going to be hard for Tom. But Tom was a non-complaining guy. We in Israel complain a lot. You can see in the Bible they call us stiff-necked and hard-hearted, don't we? If you think anything changed much from the Bible times, you're wrong. The Israelis are all prime ministers. They all know everything best. They push you. They're rude to you. They're mean. Like they get up in the morning, they look like they sucked on a lemon. And they need to get saved. Everyone needs to get saved. Maybe you guys have like this, but we have quantities of them there. Anyway, I'm one of them, so I'm not complaining. I just tell you how it is. And so when you come to Israel, if anyone is rude to you, you say, she said that, she said that. Now, you won't come across it because you're coming in a nice bus and you're going to be protected, and you won't come across one rude person, I promise you. Okay. So anyway, so we moved to Sophia, which is a Druze village, D-I-U-Z-E, and the Jews came out of the Islam. And they are born a Jews, they die a Jews, and they're not converting to anything else. And you cannot, if you try to tell them about Jesus, they cut your neck, and the kids too. We opened a youth club. For 14 to 16 years, we taught them English. That was a cover. And everything that Tom and I did was under the radar. God told us when we came to Israel that the 7-footer and the 6-footer are going to be undercover. Under the radar. I said, why didn't you pick some Chinese people? Why us under the radar? But God's ways are higher and taller than ours, so that's the way it was. And so we worked and we did very well. They loved us very much, and they wanted to even give us the key of the village because we did everything for free because we live by faith. And in 2014, Tom got graduated to heaven. He had cancer. He fought it for almost 3 years with lots of faith and natural things, and God took him home. It was very hard for me, and you know, we did everything together. We're like Bobsy twins, you know, that expression? No, you don't have it here? Bobsy twins? Yeah, you're normal after all. Bobsy twins, it's cute, huh? Bobsy twins. We did everything. Where you saw one, you saw the other. He just been really, when you get to heaven, he'll probably wait at the entrance. So when you run into a belly button, say, hey, we know about you. So I did a memorial for Tom both in Israel and in Australia. Many people came, and I said to the Lord, I thought now I'm released to go back to beautiful Australia. The Lord said, no, I want you to stay. And I want you to see the vision coming to pass. And so Tom and I prayed before he passed away, and he too really felt strongly that I needed to stay. Because, you know, when you come to Israel as an American or any other foreigner, it's really touching the heart of the Israelis, but it doesn't quite have the same effect that one of their own gets saved and has a testimony to share. And it's really the Lord gets the glory, we get the hugs. But I lead a lot of Israelis every day to the Lord. And I go fishing, and then I feed the fish into the Hebrew congregation. They speak only Hebrew. It's called Kerem El. It's like a daughter congregation under Carmel Assembly. And so I go fishing, tarat, taram, that's the state of the fish. Don't you have good salmon here? You need to import to Israel. And so, how did I get to the fish? Fishing. So I said to the Lord, what do you want me to do? And the Lord said, I want you to start going out to Tel Aviv with a team under the Ministry of House of Victory. It's a rehab center under our ministry, Carmel Assembly, but they only work for men. Men only work there. I mean, it's not women included, but we are on the teams that go out and get the people in. And I get every week there, we fill up vans, we take food and drink and chocolates, they love sweets, and we minister in places that the police is scared to go down to. It's really unbelievable what we see every week. We just see things that are so horrendous, and my little heart, I tell you, usually it takes an hour to go from Tel Aviv to Haifa. It takes sometimes 2, and I'm so glad because I just can't get over what I see every week, the horror of and they know us, they know that we love them, and they often just really, I mean, the things we go there. So I was telling the first service about this guy who was sitting there one day, and all the other drug addicts were going through his drawers, and they ran after him and screamed and beat him up, and he sat there like this under a little hood with shorts, and his legs, you know, the legs are full of pus because they inject into the legs and into the feet and into the neck. They don't have any more veins. The veins collapse. And he was sitting there, and I just went up to him, and my team and the other crazy people said, don't get close to him, don't touch him. I went up, and it's like God gave me a moment. I don't know how long it was, maybe 2 minutes, 3 minutes, but he like closed over us. And I said to him, what's your name? And he said, Dima. I said, Dima, would you like some chocolate cake? He said, yeah. So I fed him, like a baby. I fed him 6 chocolate cakes, little ones. Then I said, would you like some water? He said, yes. I gave him water. And then he looked up at me and said, why do you do that? And I said to him, because I love Yeshua. And he saved my life. I used to be a drug addict too. And I believe that my life is to help others that are in similar situation. I said, would you like to receive Yeshua into your heart? He said, yes. So I led him to the Lord. And when I finished, the Lord spoke to my heart and said, I'm going to take him home this week. So I said to him, Dima, you won't be here next week when I come, but you're going to be in the arms of Yeshua. Isn't that great? I'm going to show you 2 PowerPoint presentations, very short ones. One, you'll see a guy, you'll see a picture before and after. Simon, I got him out of one of those zulas, we call them, where the makeshift pieces of material, and that's where they shoot and sniff and whatever they do. And I went in, and the Lord said to me, you're going to bring him back. And I said to him, Shimon, you come with us to rehab. He said, I can't, I'm busy next week. I said, what do you mean you're busy? You have real estate here? You come, no, next week. He came, and as soon as he got the pension from the Israeli government, can you believe they get the pension? I am a widow, I hardly get anything, and he gets a pension. He took the money, he went back to the street of Tel Aviv and started shooting again. I went after him the following week. I said, come on, you're coming back. He's now 9 months into the program. He's been doing great. And he used to testify now. I heard him say, he said, I used to be hooked on drugs for 32 years. Now I'm hooked on Jesus, on Yeshua. Isn't that great? And while I was away, I just got an email that told me that he's going to Bible college, which is really a big thing. He barely finished school, and he's going to be a real powerhouse for Yeshua in Israel. It's 32 years out of his 60 years he's been shooting heroin. So for one life like this, it's worth going. We have a lot of stories and a lot. I want you just to have a look at you'll see there in the first PowerPoint a woman I'm kind of happy that we have a picture. Miriam is her name. She's the oldest prostitute I dealt with. A lot of those prostitutes are drug addicts. And I led her to the Lord twice. I know you're supposed to once, but she said she wanted to be led twice. I said, okay. For you especially, God will agree to that. And a month ago, she died. And so a lot of those people, we don't see them anymore. It's almost like some of them really die in arms, and some of them we just get there and we manage to lead them to the Lord, and they're dead the following week. They use, instead of heroin, they use they take pills and they boil them and then they shoot them in and it kills them. And it's just horrendous what we see there. But the good news is that God loves those that no one else loves. And He doesn't give up on us, even in our darkest hour. And God is so gracious that He would take us, even on our last breath. If you confess Jesus, Yeshua, as Lord and Messiah, and ask Him into our heart, He will take us home. I think I think some of us need to move in a bit of that grace, don't you think? We're so quick to judge and so quick to point fingers, and we don't know where someone comes from. We don't know the pain. You're sitting here in church, some of you sitting next to each other for years, and you don't have a clue what they've gone through this week, last week, or whatever. You just need to walk in more grace, in more love. You don't need to go to university for that. You don't get a title, and you don't get a certificate. My mom was so embarrassed that I didn't finish university, that I didn't go to university. What do you mean finish? She paid someone a lot of money, and I became a doctor of psychology. I have it hanging in my toilet at home. I didn't get that love from university or from school. God placed that love in my heart for its life. And what your weakest point can become your strongest point. That's why I call my testimony from victim to victor. And every day you have an opportunity if you're going to be bitter or better. And I want you to know you don't have to be a missionary in Israel. You're a missionary wherever you are, in your shopping centers, in your congregations, out there, in the supercell, wherever. There are people that just need someone to smile and say, how are you? And you know what? Don't bombard them. Don't give them tracts. I don't even know what you do for outreach. Believe me, that doesn't work anywhere. Just love them into the kingdom of God. Just love them. Just ask God to be a liquid love oozing out of you, and you just watch and see what the Lord would do. You'll have to get a bigger church because there won't be enough room. You'll need 3 services or something. That's how it should be. People don't walk normally into church. They're out there. You guys need to go and get them. And you've been sitting on your blessed assurance for a long time. And you got a really good pastor. He can preach his little heart out and in between. You guys have to do the work. Amen. So next year when I come back, I want to hear some testimonies. Amen. I want to show you those 2 PowerPoints. And I think I've finished. If anyone wants to get saved, meaning you want to ask Jesus into your heart, or you want a ministry, you need some prayer, there's a ministry team. I'm happy to pray for you, happy to hug you.